Hello guys, as I was introduced, my name is Kacper Sokołowski. I originally come from Kraków, Poland, and today we're going to talk about content security policy. And I would like to ask how many of you have actually heard about content security policy before? Yeah, probably most of us. And how many of you are using it in production? Oh, less. All right. All right. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about security, and about security in the context of JavaScript language and web platform in general. So, every once in a while a big news come out that some big company was hacked. Everyone heard about this, leaks before the American election or stuff like that. So generally, and if you think about it, that such big companies get hacked and that they leak data, it can only mean one thing, that security is really, really hard, right? And does any one of you know this company? Yeah. So Sony has this problem back in 2011 that the credit card details of their clients got leaked online, and it was horrible. They had to pay like $171 million in compensation for stolen property. They had to many people had to replace their credit cards. Not to mention that Sony's reputation got seriously undermined just because they leaked some data, right? And but all of the stuff I'm talking about, like data loss and database problems and user credentials, credit card data, they're all backend stuff, right? And we do front-end. And what can we do about security while we are doing front-end mostly? On the front-end side, we don't usually deal with user data, with sensitive data. So maybe we are safe on the front-end side, right? Are we? And it turns out that we are not. And does any one of you know this guy? Probably not. And his name is Sami Kamkar, and surprisingly, he's the author of the fastest spreading virus in all the human history. And this virus was written in JavaScript, and it was called Sami worm, that spread on MySpace. And in like 20 hours, it hit 1 million users, and 1 million users was infected. This virus wasn't really that harmful, because all it did, and sorry for the images, but they are actually the only images that are left. And MySpace was like Facebook, but 20 years ago or something. Yeah. And all the virus did was it was inviting Sami as a friend, and then posting some weird message on his wall. And this is how many. This is pages of. This is the number of pages of friend requests that he got after he published his virus. And as far as I know, in consequence, he was sentenced for writing this stuff. He was he couldn't touch his PC for 2 years or something, and he was sentenced to do some community work. So and it was just like. It was just JavaScript, which wasn't that much harmful. And one side note about Sami, Sami Kamkar is a really interesting persona because he's actually a security researcher, and I don't think that the thing he done with Sami worm is good, but you should definitely check out his GitHub repository, because he's done lots of security researches. I don't know if you've ever used Evercookie. You ever heard about Evercookie? It was this old technique to make sure that the data you store on the client is there for good. And he invented Evercookie. Now he's doing some hacking with cars, as far as I know. So go to his GitHub page and learn about security, because he's an awesome guy. And the question is, how was he able to conduct this attack? How was it that MySpace was vulnerable? And it turned out that MySpace was vulnerable to one of the most infamous attacks of web-based security attacks, which is Crosssite scripting. And probably most of you have heard about Crosssite scripting. Okay, who heard about Crosssite scripting? Yeah, cool. So just a brief explanation. Cross-site scripting is when you have an attacker who wants to inject some kind of malicious code into your website, right? And when they do it, they obtain an ability to execute any JavaScript code in the context of our web page, basically. So what can they do? They can steal cookies, steal local storage data, break layout of the page, and do many nasty stuff. Basically everything you can do with JavaScript as a web page developer. If you have a cross-site scripting hole, then you open your web page for everybody, basically, and they can do anything they want. And if you want to learn about more cross-site scripting specific attacks or about security in general, you should go to OWASP.org. They have an awesome list of every possible web-based attack, and also they have cheat sheets for attack prevention. So you should definitely go check them out and learn more about cross-site scripting, because I'm just giving a brief explanation. But apart from that, I would like to show you a demo, and I would like to conduct a cross-site scripting attack. Whoa, sorry. See, painful. Way back. Yeah, great. Nope. Alright, so imagine you have a blog, and we are the attacker, and we want to hack into it. So how would the attacker approach this task? So first thing first, he would probably go and try to do something like this, because everyone is using WordPress, so he would go and try to write something like this and check whether it's WordPress. And it turns out it's not a WordPress, so we have to do something different. And what an attacker would do is he would look for some obvious access points that he can get into the web page. And it turns out that this blog has an admin. Oh, sorry, I have to delete cookies. But you get the idea. Right, so there's an admin login. So an attacker would think that if admin logs in, the session is probably maintained using cookies somehow. So if we somehow could steal those cookies and plant it in our browser, then we could access the admin panel without knowing any credentials whatsoever. So attacker would then go and look at the web page and see for the potential input points. And when we are on a blog, there must be somewhere a comment section. So we go to a blog post, we read it, very nice, great. And as we see, there is a comment section. And attacker would do something like this. He would write, and he will do something like this. Comment posted, and as you can see, can the guys from the back row see? Really? Yeah, great. So as you can see, the code I just pasted got executed, right? So if we just put any HTML in, got executed, we could just add a script tag here, right? Just like a regular script tag we add on our web page. And if we are clever, we can prepare a certain hack script, right? That would, when the DOM is loaded, we just add an image source, like we'll add an image to a server. What we want to do is we want to make a GET request to a server with the cookies, and then read them on our server and get those cookies back, right? So if the admin will log in and go to the comment section, admin has cookies set up. This code will execute and will send the cookies to our server. So that's how we approach the attack. So what we can do now, extract a little server here. I'll do it now. Right, it's running. So if I post a comment like that, here, it looks like a regular comment, right? Nothing happened really. And but when I go back to my server, wrong port. All right, great. Thank you very much. You're listening. That's good. All right. So if I refresh now. Yeah, as you can see, I got a request, but since I don't have cookies, this cookie parameter. Oh, sorry. I think I see it. Come on. It's happening. Anyway, sorry. As you. Why is this working? Right. Is there here? One more time. Maybe I was trying quick. No?
Some cache issue.
Oh yeah, that could be. Yeah, thank you guys. So as you can see here, we got the request, but without the cookies, right? So then, if an admin logs into this page, we will get his cookies, and we can use them and substitute on our end and log into admin panel. And let's try to do it. So, imagine I'm an admin, right? And I'm now logging to my blog. Yeah, that's great. That's an admin panel. So I'm going to go and read some blog posts. Oh, nice. Oh, new comments. They like my article. Great. Okay. But see what happened? Here is the request with the cookies, so I can use them to authenticate to a server. And I'm gonna open up a new, like, completely fresh window. I will substitute those cookies. Yeah. Alright, and I have cookies set up. Oh, sorry, it's not, you cannot see it. And what I did basically was I just copied the cookies from my server and I just set it up using console. So then, when I refresh, I should see my great treasure. Yeah, and I have it. So I was able to log into an admin account without knowing the login credentials, which is kind of scary that we can be vulnerable to this kind of attacks. And this attack was kind of exaggerated because in a real-world example, I would probably just use. Where's my slide? And this demo was a little bit exaggerated if you think about it, because most of the time you would use HTTPS only cookies, which are not readable by JavaScript, so I couldn't read them in the first place, so I wouldn't be able to save them to send them to the server. But I think it proves the point that security is really, really hard, and it's really easy to make mistakes, and it's really easy to abuse other people's websites. So how do we save? And the first thing you would think would be, that we can use sanitizer, right? Everyone uses sanitizers. You should always sanitize user input, so we will just strip every HTML tag available here. And this is all right, and people have done that for many years now, and you can go to OWASP and download really good sanitizer. They have them. But, you know, sanitizers used to have bugs, and people have shown ways to like trick the sanitizer to think that the input is valid, but it wasn't, and it still contains some malicious code. And it turns out that there is a better way, and this better way is called content security policy. And what content security policy is basically a whitelist that tells the browser from which resources it's allowed to from which URLs it's allowed to download resources, like from, for example, Bootstrap and Facebook in this case. But we can tell that, you know, browser, you cannot download resources from these other URLs. And not only that, but content security policy also lets you define in which way we can execute our script. So we can say that, all right, every script that is attached to our web page via source attribute is all right here. But you can also say that, you know, inline scripting is completely prohibited. And content security policy lets us control this thing. And how we do it? We basically set up some HTTP headers on our index files that we serve. And this header looks a little bit like this. We got the header, which is content security policy, obviously. Then we have the thing called content security policy directive. In this case, it's telling the browser which scripts it's allowed to download. We call it directive. And then we have a list of URLs that the browser would use when downloading the resources. So with that knowledge, let's go back to the server and protect our website against the cross-site scripting attack. Great. So I have a script already done, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some content security policy to my server. All right. And then, when I restart, whoops. Sorry. Yeah, got it. Yeah, works now. So if I go here and hard refresh my page because HTTP headers are cached. Alright, if I go here and see my web page, I can see in the header section that my headers got attached to my web page. I can see them here. Is it readable from the back? Great. And not only that, as you can see, the browser notified us that. I don't know if the lower part is visible right now. Is it now?
Move it up. And make it also higher.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, better. Great. So not only we got our headers attached to a document, but we also got notified that something went wrong, and the browser actually did block our script, so our script did not get executed. And what's cool about content security policy is not only that it blocks certain requests, but you can also specify a special report URL that these reports would be sent. So you can also control and see what people were trying to do with your web page, and I highly encourage you to do it. And as far as I know, Sentry right now has this feature that you can easily integrate your content security policy reports, which is kind of cool. And then if I try to execute my attack now, it won't work because I wouldn't get my cookies because they won't execute, and that's the thing you want to do, right? So it's really that simple, and it really increases the security of your website. Right. So. And content security policy lets you control many different things, like content source stands for WebSockets, and image source, obviously stands for images, and style source stands for styles. And CSP is really great tool, right? But as every technology it has also its downsides. And if you take a look at the content security policy rules for Gmail, they look pretty messy. It's really hard to maintain them, and it's really easy to make mistakes. And if you have a content security policy rules like this, you will probably have problems with like overlooking something, like missing something, that the clever hacker will probably find a way around to set up proper script in proper domain to attack you. So this is not the, this is the hard thing with whitelisting, right? You have to specify everything you want. And another thing is that if you are using third-party scripts, and if you are using third-party scripts, then you are, by definition, you are not secure, right? But if you are using them and you are using analytics, for example, and you allow here Google Analytics for script source, and then Google decides that they want to load something from another domain, Google Analytics for a web page will just stop working, right? Because you don't have control over the code of Google and what they want to load, right? So it gets really tricky. And there's also this thing that that many parts of your web page, if you now start to use content security policy, like you go home after the conference and you turn it on, it will probably break everything on your web page. You won't be able to see any styles, any scripts like that, because you will be surprised how many things are actually downloaded in the background by your browser if you set it up those rules. So for the new project, you should start using content security policy as early as possible, because it's really hard to do it then. It's like a little bit like unit testing, right? If you don't start a project with unit tests, then you won't be doing them at any time. So, and content security policy has also one problem, because one time I had this cool idea. We were starting a project which was a single page application, so we thought that we would host our application on something called Amazon S3. Amazon S3 is like a simple file storage, that it has this nice option of being a web server as well. So if you just put a HTML file there and select a checkbox which says static website hosting, then you get you can serve HTML like you would on Apache or something like this. So we thought that's a good idea because we don't have to maintain any servers. And Amazon S3 also lets us add some headers on our files, right? So we thought, okay, that's nice. We can control caches and stuff like that. But then it turned out that we needed to use CDN. So we put a CDN in front of our S3 server, in front of our S3, so our application got spread globally and it was all fine. But then we learned about content security policy and we wanted to add this content security policy. And it turned out that it was a problem because Amazon S3 doesn't let us set up content security policy headers for some reason. It allows us to set up, for example, expires or content type. And our CDN also didn't let us set up our headers. So what we had to do, we had to put an Nginx in the middle that will rewrite every request and not proper content security policy headers, which was kind of a bummer because if you think about it, we had a really nice really nice structure which wouldn't require any maintenance costs because Amazon S3 is just a file storage and CDN is just another third-party service that we just use, and then it turned out we have to use Nginx. And we thought that something is wrong with our setup, but as it turned out, content security policy is really supported by few hosting providers and CDNs, and you have to ask them really nicely to turn it on. And I don't know why is that. I think that it's probably due to the performance issues because HTTP headers are not compressed in HTTP, so if they grow that big like in Gmail, probably there will be some performance issues, but that's just my opinion. I don't know for sure, but not many of them support it. And there's also one more thing I would like to show you, because as you can see, our script got blocked, right? Oh. Yeah, and that's our code, right? And we set up some content security policy rules, but we said that in style source we are allowing like unsafe inline styles, right? And you know, because everyone thinks that images are not that harmful, everyone like downloads images from different servers, but an attacker can do something really, really clever. And if we allow images from third-party sites, they can do something like this. We can do this thing, and we just set up a background for something, for footer in this example, and we have a background image that points to our server as well. And it's not like we're gonna steal cookies this time, but for example, you planted this kind of script on your competitor's site. It basically means that you set it up like tracking pixel from Google Analytics on your competitor's site. So really, those rules we set are not that really good. We should, from our content security policy rules, we should remove this value, this directive, and now we'll be more safe. Yeah. So everything, you know, security is really tricky, and you should always pay attention to what you do. All right. So today we learned that what is cross-site scripting attack, what content security policy is, and the thing I want you to go home with is to remember that security is really, really hard, and you should always pay attention to what you do and how you do it. And that's it. Thank you very much. I'm Kacper Sokołowski, and I will be at the roundtable session later this year, today and tomorrow as well. So thank you very much.